There is a particular kind of loneliness that hits you in the car on the way home from a party. You weren't rude and you weren't quiet. You smiled and asked the things you were supposed to ask. And yet, somewhere between the appetizers and the goodbye, you watched yourself become forgettable in real time. It's easy to assume the problem is that you didn't talk enough, that you failed to be interesting or funny. But the truth is often the opposite. You talked plenty. You just relied on the same 5 questions in the same 5 places that everyone else uses. These questions aren't boring because you are boring. They are boring because they were never designed to make anyone feel known. They were only designed to fill silence. When we ask someone what they do for a living, we are often just stalling. We are waiting for them to say something interesting so we can react to it, rather than taking the risk of asking something that might not land.
The person across from you can feel that self-protection. They feel that they are being processed rather than met, and so they protect themselves back, giving you the polite laugh and the professional resume. This keeps the interaction safe, but it turns you into a pleasant wall. It's an interpersonal hum that never amounts to anything you remember, a wall that doesn't get checked on when a week falls apart. In 2017, a research team at Harvard Business School set up live conversations between strangers to see what actually makes one person like another. The results were consistent. People who asked more questions were liked more. This held true in person and in text, even when the person asking the questions didn't think they were doing anything special. But not all questions carried the same weight. One specific type did most of the work: the follow-up question. This is the question that tells the other person that what they just said mattered enough for you to want to go further into it. People who asked more follow-up questions were significantly more likely to get a yes for a second date. Not because they were funnier or more attractive, but because the person across from them finally felt like someone was listening. If follow-up questions are this powerful, why don't we use them? Why does the average first date sound like 2 people taking turns reading resumes at each other? The answer lies in a paradox discovered when the Harvard team had a separate group of people watch recordings of these conversations. These outside observers preferred the answerer, the person who held the floor and shared interesting things about themselves. But for the person sitting inside the conversation, the preference flipped. They preferred the asker. We walk into social settings imagining that everyone is watching us like an audience. We try to be the one with the smart take or the funny story, optimizing for an audience that doesn't exist while ignoring the actual person in front of us. Research from Nicholas Epley at the University of Chicago shows that we also systematically misjudge how much other people want to talk to us. When Epley asked commuters to talk to strangers on their way to work, they predicted it would be the worst part of their morning. It actually turned out to be the best. The commuters who sat in silence, by contrast, reported the lowest mood. Epley and his colleague Michael Curtis later gave strangers personal prompts, asking them to talk about times they had cried or things they would change about their lives. Participants expected these deep conversations to be awkward and unwelcome. Instead, they found them to be more comfortable and produced more connectedness than the participants anticipated. There is a massive expectation gap between how we think depth will feel and how it actually feels. We assume people want to stay on the surface, but when the conversation goes deeper, they are usually ready to follow. To see how this affects our well-being, psychologist Mehl recorded 23,000 snippets of daily life from students at the University of Arizona. His team sorted these moments into 2 categories: small talk, where no new personal information is shared, and substantive conversation, where people exchange actual information about their beliefs or fears. The pattern was striking. The happiest students had roughly twice as many substantive conversations and a third as much small talk. While small talk isn't harmful, the active presence of substantive conversation correlates with a good life. It's 2 people actually meeting each other. When our conversations stay in the small talk zone, we lose the opportunity to build friendship. We spend our lives in a low-grade hum that doesn't leave a mark. This process of building closeness is what researcher Arthur Aron called reciprocal escalation. It's a rhythm where both people open up a little at a time. Neither person rushes ahead alone, and neither hangs back. The closeness comes from the back and forth of the turn-taking. This only works if the interest is real. You cannot fake your way into responsiveness, because people can feel the difference between performed curiosity and actual curiosity. When you walk into a room, you can choose whether your goal is to be impressive or to be interested.
If you pick interested, the other things tend to follow on their own. For the next 7 days, try trading one boring question for one curious follow-up, not as a performance, but as an experiment, and watch what happens to the way people lean toward you when you do.